Hi, everybody. Welcome to my shrink wrap show, where we talk about the trials and triumphs of celebrity lives and relationships and what we can learn from them. You know, the celebrity stars, they shine so brightly and we all look up to them, yet we're puzzled when they fall. So shrink wrap is here to shed light on all. I'm Dr. Jane Greer. I'm a marriage and family therapist, a sex therapist, host of the Doctor on Call radio hour at healthylife.net, and author of 5 books on relationships. These include Adult Sibling Rivalry, Understanding the Legacies of Childhood, How Could You Do This to Me? Learning to Trust After Betrayal, Gridlock, Finding the Courage to Move On in Love, Work, and Life, The Afterlife Connection, a therapist reveals how to communicate with departed loved ones, and What About Me? Stop selfishness from ruining your relationship. All of my books are available on Amazon. You know, we are all fascinated by celebrities. They look like they have it all. They have everything that we want. We admire them. We envy them. We aspire to be like them. Everybody wants to be in the spotlight. Everybody wants their hour of fame. And yet they are people just like the rest of us. Their lives go in many different directions with drama and twists and turns. And we learn so much from seeing how they survive and how they manage, because they're role models for all of us. Recently, the headlines have been sizzling with the reunion of Jennifer Lopez and Ben Affleck, who rekindled their romance after 10 years or more following her breakup of her engagement with Alex Rodriguez. It certainly sparks curiosity and interest in terms of, wow, getting back with an ex. Is that really a good thing to do? Is that something one should try and do? It raises the question, how long do you hold on to the image and the desires of the past relationship that you lost? And when do you move on and let it go completely? That's today's show. We're going to be talking with 2 people, both of whom have been through that experience exactly, dealing with a breakup, dealing with loss, one who has been very clear in moving on, and the other who is still trying to return and recapture the lost relationship. The question really becomes, when do you hold on and when do you let go to an old romance? On today's show, we have 2 guests, Ida and Jimmy, both of whom have gone through this experience. And we're going to talk to them to see how they've dealt with their breakups from the past and the relationship in the present. We're going to be talking with Ida now, who's going to share her story of love, romance, breaking up, and wanting to reunite with her ex. So, hi, Ida. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being a part of the show. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Thank you so much. So tell me, how long were you together with your ex before you broke up and ended the marriage?
We were together for about 4 years, married for about 3, and I decided to end the marriage, but our relationship continued until 20 years later.
Oh my goodness. So what caused you to want to get divorced and end the marriage so early in?
It was infidelity.
He cheated on you?
Yes.
Okay. And were you the one to discover it, or was he the one to come and say to you, you know what, I'm in love with somebody else?
I discovered it, and it wasn't love. It was more an infatuation, but I discovered it. And at that point, I just wanted to end it because I thought that would never happen to me, and it did. So I wanted it ended.
Did your ex want to end it, or did he say this was a passing fling, like you say, infatuation? And did he want to remain married and rebuild your trust?
No, I think he was in agreement to get a divorce.
So he was okay with it at that time. Did he wind up going off with this other woman, or was it just a passing affair?
It was a very short period because then he pursued me right after. We actually went to divorce court together. We were back together when we went to divorce court. And I insisted on getting a divorce because I was just, being stubborn and thinking it's not working. I want to end it, but I was still with him. So it was very confusing.
Well, it's very hard when there is infidelity and betrayal. It's inevitable that you feel hurt, and rejected and angry, but the loving feelings don't go away. So it becomes confusing because on the one hand, you're angry and you never want to see the person again. How could you do this to me? But on the other hand, you still love them. And because they've betrayed you doesn't necessarily mean they've stopped loving you. It just means that they followed some other longings and desires and were, not true to their marriage vows. So you say he pursued you. For how long did that go on?
So after the divorce, we ended up back together for a brief period, and then I broke it off again and ended up back together. It was a roller coaster.
What
And
made you continue to break up with him at that point? Was he continuing to be unfaithful?
no, he was pursuing me. We have this habit of, him pursuing and then me accepting, and then him kind of messing up again and then pursuing.
Messing up by becoming involved with other women?
Yes.
Okay, so you never could fully trust him again after that initial betrayal, it sounds like.
I never could trust him, but at the same time, when he told me that, I do believe he loves me. Till this day, I believe he loves me, but he has his own issues, as I do. And so when he, used to pursue me and say, I've messed up, you are the love of my life, I'm messed up, I would believe him, or I would want to believe him. I would end up with him again until the next person came along again.
How long a time period between forgive me, I'm sorry, I messed up, and then once more with feeling going off and becoming involved with another woman? How much time was in between there?
Sometimes months, just months.
And in those months, did it feel like you two could get back together? Did it feel like it was the old relationship coming alive?
I think romantically it felt like it, but I think subconsciously I knew that nothing had really changed.
Nothing.
So I almost expected him to end up doing the same thing again.
So nothing had really changed, meaning that he would say one thing, I want to be with you, I love you, you're the love of my life, and yet he would continue to break your heart and become involved with other women.
Yes, after several months.
And so do you still look to get back together with him? And does he still look to get back with you?
He still does. Again, this is almost 20 years later. And the last time it's happened was about a year ago that he pursued me, and I kind of fell for it and changed his mind again, because at this point there's another person that's not a fling. It's just become almost a part of his life.
So there's another woman that he's actually serious with.
Yes.
And so trusting him at this point that he really is looking to reunite with you and get back together with you seems much more unrealistic.
Right. I mean, he ping-ponged for a long time between me and her. And I feel foolish saying this now. It's amazing that, when you say it outright, how silly it sounds that I've dealt with this, that I allowed it. But this is the case.
It's not silly. It's understandable because, again, loving feelings don't go away, even in the face of treacherous, hurtful, betraying behavior. The love is still there. And we all have to find ways to reconcile and somehow come to terms with that. With that being said, while he did love you, it sounds like for whatever the reason, his own ability to be monogamous and be faithful was really compromised. And one of the things that never happened was his taking ownership of the betrayals and really looking to rebuild your trust to make the marriage work or to make the relationship work. And unfortunately, without that, there's no foundation to a relationship. So while your loving feelings remained and kept you ping-ponging back and forth, it continued to have a disappointing outcome, because from the very first betrayal, when trust was broken, it remained broken.
Yes.
And as a result, it's just kept you hopeful, but hurting over this course of time. So hopefully seeing it now and understanding that while he may very much indeed love you, he's not able to live with you in a way that is honoring the vows you once took as husband and wife and to be faithful. becomes important for you to be able to hold true to yourself when you said you've broken up and you've ended it with him, to really move on at this point so that you can have more in your life. It certainly sounds like he's moved into another relationship. Maybe now's the time for you to do the same as well.
Yes.
Well, thank you so much for
Thank
sharing your story with us, and best of luck with you going forward.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. Thank you again.
Okay.
Hi, Jimmy. Welcome to the show, and thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
So we're talking about breakups, makeup or breakup, and why some work and why some people could get back together, like J-Lo and Ben Affleck after 10 years, and suddenly they're right back in the saddle. Their love is alive and steamy, and other people can keep going and going and going. We were talking to Ida before, and even after 20 years, the attempts just fall flat and the relationship doesn't come back to life. What's your story? How long have you been broken up with your ex? How long were you together? And why did you break up in the first place?
This was a friend of mine, a best friend for about 4 years, very close, shared in a lot. And, we decided that we were going to start dating. It made sense. And we were planning, I'm divorced. I have a little girl. I have a beautiful little girl, 10 years old. It's my world and my purpose. And, the beginning expectations were that we were going to get married. We were going to, start a family, and my daughter was going to be heavily involved in that process. That changed, and things quickly somewhat went into a negative direction because my daughter realized that, this was the first go around with me dating after 9 years. And my daughter didn't want anything to do with that, and it was going to take some time. And just didn't move forward. We weren't able to kind of come to an agreement to the understand. It ended up, what happened was she didn't want my daughter. She didn't want nothing to do with that situation, and so it ended, and it ended blindsided. I mean, it just blindsided me.
She just ended the relationship and said, I'm
Yep.
done. I don't want any part
Yep.
of it.
Yeah, planning a wedding, planning a life, buying a house, quitting jobs. I mean, moving, buying the ring, honeymoons
Oh my
planned,
goodness.
whole thing. And all of this was going to be on a set timeline as well. Engaged in November, married in December, pregnant in January, and my daughter involved in the process. And through text message, it was done.
Wow,
Yeah.
that must have been a heartbreak.
It was, and but it's I'm a true believer God does not make mistakes, and this I've learned from this. There was an age gap. I'm 46 with a daughter and a history. In an ex-wife, and she was 29 years old, so there was a big maturity gap there.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're absolutely right. First of all, when you're friends with somebody, it is sometimes, when Harry met Sally, it's easy to morph to a comfortable, intimate relationship. And she may not have really understood or appreciated the enormity of what she was agreeing to in terms of the family dynamics that you were talking. You understood them. You've been through marriage. You had a family you knew with your daughter. Because she was younger, she was just, it sounds to me like she was in love with you and wanted to marry you and make a life with you. But when she started to contemplate, it meant sharing you with your daughter and really understanding the elements of that.
And that's where it went south, was the sharing part was the thing that went south. And if you've never been in that situation, you don't know. So to be fair to that was that's, you have to have expectations of what you want in your life. And that wasn't something that she decided in the end, no matter what. Like, she said, is functionally we were fine, like together, her and I were fine. But, and again, there's the maturity side of it. And that was a big difference. But, I'm a father, and I'm very proud to be a father, and I'm a very involved father and a dad. And she's my little girl is my purpose. And, I even went several weeks to where I wasn't even around my daughter, and that hurt me. It bothered me, So, that has changed, and it's been a few months now, but, there's more out there. I'm very successful in my life, very successful in my career. I'm a successful person. And, I don't, I'm at the point in my life where I don't need somebody, I want somebody. And that was the big difference.
Yeah. Were there watch out signs on her part in terms of the way she was interacting with you and your daughter before everything was, there was the rollout to the wedding and the honeymoon and the life together? Was there any indicator that she was just not going to get along with your daughter, or there was going to be rivalry and competition?
I think it started with the mere fact that she, like I said, 4 years, somebody's history, and stuff about each other. She knew I had an ex-wife. She knew I have, a child. The expectations in the beginning was we're just gonna mesh this in very quickly. Let's just get it together. My daughter had only been around her one time, and that was just by coincidence. And so she felt like we could just interact quickly instead of warming up to it. Well, you can't do that. That's not the right thing to just jump right into it. And so that started to create some friction because I was basically splitting myself now. So that was getting pretty exhausting, and never been in that scenario. I've seen people do it, and I've seen people fail at it as well.
Right.
But I wanted to do what was best for my daughter. I wanted to remove myself from the situation, and that didn't happen. I'll be honest, I became selfish in it because I didn't know what I was really doing. And but the signs I think started showing up later, to where we weren't really living in the reality that I have another life. I have another human being that's in this. And again, this girl she was my person. She was my go-to. And, so it was hard for me to accept that I was losing not just, somebody I was ready to spend the rest of my life with. I had not dated in 9 years.
Wow.
And this was the first person, and trusted her. And so, I lost a best friend, and I lost, somebody that I was going to spend the rest of my life with. And, but again, it happens. And, I don't make mistakes, and I don't blame her. She had to do what was best for her. But I think we probably could have looked at the red flags in the beginning.
Yeah, it's really difficult because what you encountered is what so many couples do experience. The love is there between people, whether it's somebody's livelihood and job and they just got a promotion and it's going to take them to the other side of the country, whether
Yeah.
it's daughter, it becomes just the variable changes, but learning how and being able to share and make
Yeah.
room for what's important to the other person, and recognizing that you just can't have the
Yeah.
two of you in a bubble, and it really becomes a matter of compromising, is very
Yeah.
challenging. And many
Yeah.
times, unfortunately, people can't work it out. Well, thank you so much. It sounds, as hurtful as it's been and as great a loss as it's been, it really sounds like you have the clarity and your
Sure.
priorities right in
Hmm.
place. You know that you're a devoted dad, and if this is what it takes, you're going to be there for your daughter. You're not putting that
100%.
on the line, which is tremendous.
Yeah.
And you're ready to move on,
Yeah.
and you know now going forward to keep an eye out, because it's something that's front and center in your life,
Hmm.
that the
Yeah.
next person you're involved with is going to need to be a part of your world, not just the
Yep.
relationship with you.
Yeah, and it takes time. It's got to be patient, and it's a slow process, and that's the thing is, it's you got to love me, but you got to love, my daughter too, and that's important. She doesn't need another mother, but she's got a mom, and a very devoted mother, and so, but I need somebody that understands that, and and can accept that, and that's a big thing, so until that time comes, I'm good.
Well, you certainly are good, and you certainly will be a good catch for that woman who's out there and ready to become part of a relationship, a
Absolutely.
world, and a family. So lots of good luck to you, and thank you so
Thank you.
much for sharing your story with us. Very much appreciated.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
So we listened to Ida and we listened to Jimmy. They both have very different stories, but they are both dealing with a breakup and trying to make their lives work in the aftermath. So unlike J-Lo and Ben, sometimes you cannot get back together with your ex and have that love reignite and rekindle and become the romance you always wished it was. Sometimes it's a matter of coming to terms with the reality that there's just not enough trust in the relationship, like Ida was experiencing, that you can't rebuild it, that the person who broke your trust is not committed to making it work and to becoming trustworthy so that you can feel safe going forward. And like with Jimmy, sometimes the partner that you want, it's not just about the feelings you have for each other or the love that you have for each other. It's also about how do you make your life work? How do you make your lives work? That happens for the celebrities all the time. They may love each other, but they have different movies that they're doing. They're in different parts of the world. The needs of their children pull on them. And that is exactly what Jimmy encountered in his own world, that he's a devoted father. He knew that his priority is to be with his daughter and to make his life work with her being very much a part of that. And of course, if that's not going to be the same priority with a partner, it's pretty hard to go forward with the relationship. So while the breakup is a heartbreak and sad, inevitably, it is oftentimes better than going forward knowing that you're going to be resentful or unhappy and finding that you have to dig out down the road after clashing and finding yourself at odds and in anger with your partner. So the takeaway with a breakup is sometimes it's better to break up and move on. Sometimes when the love is still there and two people are devoted and committed to making it work, like we see with J-Lo and Ben, you can bring it back to life and make it work out better than the first time. Sometimes love can be better the second time around. In my book, How Could You Do This to Me? I tell people that you cannot take trust at face value, which is what we call blind trust. Trust is about being able to listen to what they say and what they tell you they're going to do, what their words are, which then have to be followed up by their behavior. And without the behavior going right in sync with the words, you do not have trust. And I think what we saw with Ida was that in her heart, she wanted to believe her ex, and he kept promising her that he would make changes. However, what he said and what he did continued to be untrustworthy. And consequently, when that happens, if you do not use what you know, that this person is saying one thing and doing another, and move through your own wishing and hoping, the denial that, okay, this time it's going to be different. You need to see the behavior and to say, okay, what has changed? Why is it going to be different this time? And if they can't answer that and give you a solid reason, what they are doing differently, what is different for them, then you have nothing to go on in terms of trust. And it's always better to protect yourself and go with what you've seen, to continue to move away from that person rather than to simply hope that they will not hurt you again. So if you've been betrayed or hurt, you're still reeling from the aftermath of that, I urge you to go look at my book, How Could You Do This to Me? So that you too can learn how to trust after betrayal. Trust not only other people, but trusting yourself to be able to believe in your own judgment and not fear that you're going to get fooled or deceived again. Thank you all for joining me for my shrink wrap show here at southbaytv.com, and follow me on Instagram at Dr. Jane Greer.